Hello and welcome back to another video. In my photos I took in December video, I said that I would continue the series if you guys wanted me to do so. And after that video was published, I received a bunch of positive comments and messages on Instagram asking me to continue the series and, just people saying that they really like it. So welcome back to, I guess, what is the second season of this Year of Photos series. I also just want to say thank you to everyone that gave me a positive comment or a positive Instagram message or whatever. It really does mean a lot to me, being able to ask a question and get a bunch of responses. It's just so nice and, I appreciate you all. But anyway, we've started off pretty strong with the first month of this new series, as I've got some pretty decent photos to show you, especially towards the end of the month. So let's just get into it, and the first photos that I took in January were with my old Fujifilm GFX 50S and the 45mm f2.8 Mamiya lens. I was planning on selling my entire GFX setup so I can buy into a new camera system. I've spoken about why I wanted to do this in a few videos already, so I just won't speak about it here. But I wanted to give the GFX one last go before selling it, so me and Jen went out on a beautiful evening to scout a location that I found. I was wanting to see if this location that I found would be any good for a project that I'm doing, and I thought I may as well bring along the GFX to give it one last send off, getting some photos of the location and some photos of Jen. But within a few minutes of getting there and snapping some photos, I immediately remembered why I was wanting to sell the GFX, as I just really didn't enjoy using that camera anymore. And it was the final nail in the coffin that this camera just wasn't for me anymore. But I continued taking photos until I just didn't want to be out anymore, and that night I listed my entire setup online, and everything's gone now, everything's completely sold. But anyway, the photos are decent, and I do like how some of them have turned out, even if the camera just isn't for me anymore and I just don't really like using it. The photos of Jen at the car are my favourite from the shoot, but even then, they still aren't that great. A few days later, I went back to the place to scout it again, because last time I didn't even get to the main part of the area. This time I brought along the Fujifilm X-T4, which was just the perfect carry, as I wasn't, expecting to get any amazing photos or anything, as the light was terrible and I just, was getting test photos to see if the location would be any good. And the X-T4 is perfect for that because it's just so light and just, you can easily just chuck it in a small bag and you'll be fine. Like last time, the photos aren't amazing, and if I'm being honest, I think these ones are pretty garbage. The location just wasn't what I was hoping it to be, and maybe if I came back with some better light, then I would feel differently. But the only images that I think are relatively okay are these two here. And I'm not even really a big fan of them, they're just the best out of a really bad bunch. The next photos in the month were from a trip that me and Jen went on to Dartmoor to check out this place called LOFIRU. It's a collection of hills, woodland areas and a reservoir, and I thought it would just be a nice place to go on a nice stroll and just get some photos. We ended up spending a lot more time there than I thought we would. I was expecting us to be there for an hour and a half to 2 hours, but we were there for more 4 hours. So we ended up leaving very tired. I also made a video about this trip. It's actually the last one that I'd released, and I'd really appreciate it if you all went to check it out. Anyway, I mainly took photos on my Fujifilm X-T4, but I did also get some on my Intrepid 4x5. None of these photos are great by any means, but I just think they're nice photos to look back on. However, I did get a couple landscapes which I quite like, and I've been liking black and white photography a lot more lately, and my favourite photo from that day I edited in this black and white style, and it's just turned out really nice. It's this one here. I just think it's got a really nice composition, and I think the subject matter is good. I like the tree planted things that cover the bottom half of the image. The highlights on those just really make this image, what it is. Me and Jen then had a long drive back home, and we finished the day very nicely with some lovely hubbox. I then didn't take any photos for about a week because I was rushing around getting stuff done for a deadline that I have on my teaching degree. But on one of those days where I was rushing around, I had a lesson, and it was a medium format induction. And while doing that lesson, I decided to get some portraits of the students using a Mamiya RZ67 to show them what the camera can do. So I got a headshot of each of the students that were there, and I got a portrait of one of the teachers and also an LSP. and I was hoping that there would be more people to actually turn up to this, but a few people had like some issues going on and they just couldn't show up to the class, but it was still a decent amount of people to show up for this induction, especially when it was one of my observed teaching lessons, so I think it's turned out pretty well. And these photos are quite nice as well, although the light was incredibly harsh because we were just using this like random like Godox light, I think it is. We didn't actually have a softbox for it because those were all in the studio, and the studio was currently being used at that point, so we didn't have access to any of those. So we had this like incredibly harsh, bright light, and it just made some nasty shadows on people's faces, but I think the results are still okay. The next photos that I took were towards the very end of the month, and they are some of my favourites. Like I mentioned earlier, I sold all of my GFX gear to buy into a new system, and that system was Nikon, and the camera that I got was the Nikon ZF, which I have here. I am so happy with this camera. I've currently got a red filter on it right now, that's why the lens is red. I've just been experimenting with that today, and I've got some quite nice photos that I need to edit in a minute. But yeah, I'm just loving this camera. But I got an incredible deal. I don't know how I managed to find this deal, but it was just, you know, brand new boxed up, the camera and the 40mm f2 for really cheap for what you find this camera for. And then I also got the 28 2.8. I bought that off MPB in like new condition for relatively cheap as well, which I was surprised that they were selling it for that, because I've seen some bad deals on there lately, especially for a ZF. I actually got a brand new ZF, the 40mm f2 and the 28 2.8, all cheaper than it is to just buy a ZF body on MPB in like new condition. And you know, the 40 f2 and the body are brand new. The only used part is the 28 2.8. I somehow managed to get all of that for cheaper than it was just to buy the body on MPB in like new condition. Like I said, I've seen some bad deals lately. But I've been wanting a ZF ever since they were released. It's just like the ideal camera for me, because I love the X-T4, I love Fujifilm, I love all the retro designs and everything, but the one thing that I really hate is the crop sensor. I really like full frame. Ideally, I'd have a medium format camera, but just with all the negatives that they come along with, you know, this is the perfect in-between for me. And having this now has just made me realise I have probably found my forever camera. But anyway, I'll show you the photos that I took. I basically got it all charged up, and me and Jen went out to just take some portraits and just get some landscapes and stuff, and these will all be in my next video that I'll be releasing after this one. But here are the images here. I practically didn't use the 40 f2 like the entire time. All of these images are with the 28 2.8, and that's because I have never really used the 28mm focal length before, and using it here has just made me realise how perfect this focal length is for me, even for portraits. I just absolutely love it. But these images are just gorgeous. I had an amazing model, great light, and a wonderful camera. But this camera has just completely exceeded my expectations, and I'm just so excited to use it more. So, you know, you can expect to see a lot more photos from this camera on this channel soon, as well as videos. But anyway, the day after that shoot, I went out again with the ZF, and it was actually the 31st, so it was the last day of the month. And me and Jen went to Wheel Coats to get some photos of just like that area. I also got some photos of Jen, and we went there at sunset, and it was just beautiful. And once again, I pretty much only used the 28. I did bring along the 40 f2, but I switched to it once, then was like, yeah, I'm going straight back to the 28 because I just prefer it so much more. But I got a mixture of portraits of Jen, and I also got some landscapes of the surrounding mining buildings. I love how these portraits have turned out, and I'm quite happy with these landscapes as well. I also done some alternative edits to a couple photos to see how a black and white editing style would look. As the project I'm doing, I sort of just realised that I want to do it in like a grungy black and white aesthetic. I was originally planning to do this project in colour, but after using, you know, this ZF and getting some photos in black and white, I am so much more happy with the images in black and white and this editing style that I've done. But I'll make another video talking more in depth about this project, as I got quite a positive response on my last one, which I will link here if you guys want to see it. But I've actually had quite a few updates, even in just like the past week of using this ZF and just, you know, shooting for this project. I've got some nice images as well, especially today. I really like some of the images that I got today. And before I forget, I also got some photos that day, just like before and then also after going out, of just, you know, some pets and also Jen just like around the house and stuff. And on a side note, the animal autofocus on the ZF is so much better than I thought it'd be. I have used like animal autofocus on a couple cameras before, and it's never been very good, but with this ZF, it was just locking on instantly every single time. And like, there was a time where my cat moved and it ended up going a little bit out of focus, but I took a photo anyway. But like literally like right back the next photo, it was completely in focus. It's actually crazy. But the autofocus in general on this camera is like the best I've ever used. It's so much better than any camera I've used, and it's just crazy. But anyway, those were the last photos that I took in January, and I think it got pretty strong towards the end when I started taking photos with this ZF. And I'm hoping that February will be as, you know, strong. In fact, I know it's going to be even stronger than January because I've got some amazing images already, and it's only like the second or third, I think. But that'll be the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.